I am so excited because every single episode has been with somebody who really brings their heart to the book. Um, I had to get a copy of this. I met Brian at a really cool event, and I just hit it off right away with him. And so when I heard he did a book and he did it for his daughter, I said, I'm all in. So I can't wait for you to hear who Brian is, why he did this book, and most importantly, how it'll make a difference in your life. Brian, the stage is yours.
Well, I love that you teed up my daughter because I often tell people that I'm a husband and father first. And I always lead with that in today's world. The biggest reason being because, though I've said it for 20 years, my words, actions, and behaviors were not always congruent, yet they are very much so today. But this book, it's funny. I was talking with Ken before we jumped on today, and I said to him, which is probably the biggest slap in the face for somebody who is a publisher, I didn't even intend to do this. I had no intent of writing a book. I had no intent of publishing a book. And I've been asked multiple times when it was going to happen. And I've always been one of those that when something hits me, I lean in and the rest becomes history. We had a really phenomenal family vacation this summer and a cat, frankly, that is kind of the OG coolest cat I've ever known. He replaced the first cat that we ever had, and he genuinely was like a protector, unafraid of everything, and just a really unique, grounded protector personality. My daughter and him have a really special relationship. And when we got back from this vacation, his sickness had taken over and he had lost 6 pounds in 11 days. I didn't used to be a cat guy, but this guy definitely has me. And I sometimes have learned that for myself, it's best to process by writing or talking. But in this case, I didn't quite have the words to communicate what I was feeling and how I was feeling. I didn't quite know how to prepare myself or my daughter for the impending loss of this cat that had such an impact in her life and frankly all of ours. And so as I was writing, I started to realize that there was a lot more here than I ever imagined. And so in a night of processing, I wrote 90% of the first version of this book. The next morning I woke up. I run a live show every Friday morning where I have 3 guests. And my last guest on the show that day, who we ended up going longer with, was a really well-known published author. He's got over 50 bestsellers in multiple different categories. And in the nature of having the discussion and the interview, I found out that the very first book he published was a book he published in honor of his daughter. Well, at the beginning part of me writing this story, yes, it was for me, and I was planning on just taking those raw writings and communicating with them with my daughter, but he implanted this idea in me, which was, man, maybe there's something here. And it took over from there. I do a lot with AI. And so with AI, I was able to actually set some boundaries in place and actually get relatively good illustrations that maintained character components throughout the course of the book. I used a lot of the available resources to me because at the moment I still wasn't planning on publishing it. I was planning on just getting a printed copy of a book. And so I wanted to figure out what were the traditional formats and how do I go about this. The story at that point, I finalized within a day of being on the call with him. And then I had to figure out how might I approach doing this, right? Do I put the words on the same pages as the illustrations? Do I take a different approach? And I just started to play and iterate and create. And next thing I knew, I had an outline that I had broken the story down into logical chapters. And with each one of these logical chapters, I was able to create a scene that supported the image or the feeling that I wanted to create. And it really was just a way for me, again, still to process and prepare, and publishing was still not on the table. I was telling Ken right before we jumped on, though, that when I did the research, the gap between going to a printer, getting a book that I was able to format and have them print to give my daughter a physical copy of this story, the gap between that and self-publishing on Amazon KDP, which again, I'm sure is a slap in the face to many publishers, was minute. And I knew it wouldn't be perfect, but it did give me a chance to get a published, printed copy of a book delivered in a way that my daughter would be used to receiving something in the mail. And we got the chance to sit down and actually read this book together. Now, our cat did not die. That's the real kicker to this. See, we set people up to prepare and process, and many people believe that my cat is gone. And this was a book I wrote to grieve. Well, this book actually was used to do what's called preemptive grieving and to acknowledge and honor him in the time that we had left with him. And literally 2 days before I published the book, he turned a corner. And it's now been about 2 months. And whatever ailments he'd been dealing with for 6, 9, or 12 months are gone. And the vet doesn't know what to say because they didn't even know what was wrong with him in the first place. But I also do believe that everything happens for a reason. And the day that the book went live and was published also happened to be the 33rd anniversary of the accident that changed my life forever when I was 7. I was run over by a truck and my left arm was torn from my body when I was just 7 years old. Reattached, 24 surgeries, years of adversity. And yeah, I still get to pick my kids up and lift them above my head today because of the sacrifices that my parents made for me and how I had to learn to deal with my emotions and process and heal in different ways. So what became an idea of a book to the idea to print a book now was becoming a published book. And from idea to publication, it was 13 days. And it got published on the 33rd anniversary of the date that changed my life and the trajectory of my family's life forever. And so what this book means to me is a way to honor him, a way to honor her. And I've got a picture, in fact, of me and my kids sitting on the couch the day the book got delivered, and my cat is sitting on my lap while I'm wearing an apron, cooking dinner in the house that night because I'm an active and involved father. It was a full circle moment, and it's opened up a different level of creativity within my daughter and my son that's now led to deeper discussions, and they've done this analysis. Both of them, in fact, took the book and read them in their classrooms at school. And one more just closing the loop cool moment is my daughter is 10. She's dyslexic, and she's been going to a school for dyslexia since she was able to. She also is hearing impaired and has hearing aids in both ears. And what you'll see in this book is there's hearing aids in some of the images and not in some of the others. And some people thought that was an AI anomaly in the illustrations. And in fact, well, who do you know that has hearing aids that wears them 24 hours a day and wears them when they sleep? And so there was just these small little ways to embed intentionality into the imagery and into the story that I know that this book will last for a long time. But she took this book and read it to her class in front of a whole room of kids that also struggle with dyslexia. And what's cool is what used to be her least favorite topic is now her favorite topic, and she reads nonstop. And so this book became, we believe, more than just a way to prepare and process, but frankly, for a way for people to actually connect, find belonging, and propel themselves and those furry friends and the memories with them forward into the world versus having to be stuck in pain and loss. We can honor those little memories, those little moments, those little pieces of impact that our friends, our furry companions find a way to give us over time. So I don't know how much time is left here, Mr. Ken. I think I was right on time, but my friend, I'm so grateful for the chance to speak to all of this.
Yeah, this is we choose authors that are heart-centered. We choose authors that want to be in a community where they get to really celebrate each other. And we certainly love children's authors because they have a special heart for what they're doing the book for. I want to show you just two of my favorite illustrations and pages in the book. This page right here, I just get a real kick out of. And then the other page, which I relate to more from past cats I've had, is this page right here.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And not to make too fine a point on it, Brian, but let me just
Well, so here's the thing, man. Cats exist in my world because it was either a life without cats, which is what I envisioned, or a life without my wife. And it was non-negotiable for me. And so, man, I've become a cat dad myself, and we've got 2 of them now. And I don't know which version you had in hand, but the re-released version, there was a reference to our other cat, Ben, in it. And there's a little feature of Ben towards the end that actually introduces some of those processing pages at the back. So you might have gotten one of the exclusive first 100 copies that didn't have him. And I'll always know those loyal followers that supported me in the first 100 books because whether or not Ben is involved there.
Those are the collector's items.
Yeah, that's right.
This isn't the reference, though, is it?
No, it would be, you know those pages at the end that are like processing?
Yes.
At the very last page, after the last page, there should be, right there, that's Ben. Yep, there, you got one of the new ones. There you go.
I did. Well, I had to rush and get it when I knew we had the show. I had some reading to do.
I appreciate you, bro.
All right. Well, how do people connect with you? I know that your book is on Amazon, and we have high hopes of representing it. But how do people connect with you to buy the book
Yeah, if you're on
or
social media, you can find me at Bogert Brian on all channels, including YouTube. And if you're online, it's brianbogert.com. We're on a mission to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as we can by reducing the level of suffering on this planet, largely of which I believe exists internal. And my reason for existence on this planet at this point is to allow my truth to give others permission to live theirs. So we were talking about collective impact, man. I believe move people move people. If you're moved by anything with this today, or you're moved by anything that Ken, Dr. Smiley throws out into the world with any of these things, move them through the world, move them to other people, because that's the whole point. We can impact more people together. Your book impacts the world. There you go. Perfect publishing. Wow. I didn't even know the tagline. It just happened.
impacts everything? Impact is everything. You know, it's the coolest thing. If you've impacted the world, you don't have to worry about abundance.
That's right.
All right, brother. Well, thank you for being on this. We need to move to the next author, and you did a brilliant job. I was in all the way on that one. Thank you.